Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about option contracts, and this is not necessarily in Maryland, even though it does say up Maryland up here. Most of this can be applied to any state in the United States. I'm sorry for my international people, but I don't know anything about that. I don't know what kind of tests they do in international. If somebody is international, let us know in the comments what you have to do to become a real estate agent internationally, because that would be good to know. Anyway, you're going to cover these 4 lessons and hopefully the exam all on this video. So let me stop running my mouth so that we don't run out of time. There might be, lesson 4 might be specific to the state, but I don't know yet. All right, option contracts. All right, chances are you won't require to prepare an option contract. You should be familiar with the terminology, but you'll probably never have to use it. Let's look at this a second. It's an offer to purchase a specific piece of real estate, but with the obligation to buy it. All right. What makes it different from a regular sales contract? Both the buyer and seller are bound to carry their contractual obligations. In an option contract, only the seller is bound by the contract. Therefore, it is a unilateral contract. While the option gives the buyer the right to buy the property, it does not require the optionee, the buyer, to buy it. It doesn't require them to buy it. So I guess it would be like a rent-to-lease thing. I don't know. That's what it sounds like. I might buy it, but I might not. This might sound unfair to the seller, but by law, must not sell the property to anyone during the option period. All is fair in love and real estate. This optionee must pay an option fee to the optionor. So the buyer must pay a fee to the seller so that the person will not sell it to anybody else while they're using it. And so just like I said a minute ago, it's like renting to own. I can see that would make perfect sense. If you're in a rent to own agreement where you are renting to maybe buy this property from the seller, but you want to try it out for a while and see if you really like the neighborhood or whatever, that would be a good option. So rent to own is when you do it, option to buy, and they're not obligated to buy. You want them to buy maybe, right? Or an agreement which the seller has the option to withdraw an option of specific real, but without the obligation to buy it. Okay, how I got an option for you. Margot wants to make an offer on a piece of property, but she doesn't want to be forced to buy it. Grant is okay. So the 2 enter into an option contract for 2. Margot is the optionee. This is where I get confused. Grant is the optionor. Grant is fully aware that an option contract is a unilateral contract and that only the seller is bound to carry out the obligations. If Margot decides not to purchase the property, he gets to keep the option fee and is free to go. All right, at what point does an option contract become binding? Agrees to sell the option? No, has to do that first. Okay. As soon as parties? No. Once the optionee exercises the option? Okay. Once the optionee, the buyer, exercises that option. Okay, it is illegal to attach an option contract to a lease. I have no idea. Let's see. I wouldn't think it would. An option contract attached to a lease gives the seller the option to purchase, or is it the lessee? I get so confused on this lessee. And this is the way they do the test too, by the way. They do it with lessee and lessor, optionee, optionor. They rarely will put buyer and seller in here, unfortunately. Okay, so lessee. Lessee must be the buyer. An option contract attached to a lease is known as a lease option. With an option attached to a lease, a landlord can increase the option amount if a better offer comes in. I would say no on that. If you want to go through these questions again and take a screenshot, you can. I'm trying to get through all on one video. All right, so we have 125 videos so far in this series, and we are 50% done with this study course. So we might end up with 250 videos in this playlist. A newlywed comes to you asking for help on an option contract. What do you do? Thank them for coming and politely show them the door. I don't know if that would be the right answer. Maybe it is. We got that one wrong. All right. Let's see. No. Okay. All right. Get to a real estate attorney. All right. I don't know why we wouldn't help them fill it out, but maybe that requires an attorney. All right, required elements in an option contract. Why do we got to know this if an attorney's going to do it? That's my question. Does anybody know that answer? All right, the property sale price or the way in which the price will be determined must be stated in the contract. The agreement must be in writing and signed by the seller. The contract must state the length of option period, and that is true for all of those. More required elements. The contract must specify the date that the optionee will purchase the property. The amount of consideration the optionee is paying the optionor must be stated in the contract. And both of those I got correct. What are the two contractual promises of an option contract? That the seller will not sell the property to anyone else. Okay. All right, the optionor, the seller will sell the property to this buyer if the buyer so chooses under the contract terms and conditions. All right, enforcing and terminating a option contract. Who can enforce an option contract, the seller or the buyer? Only the buyer. All right, breaches of an option contract. A breach of contract. What constitutes a breach of contract? Ezekiel, the buyer, is an option contract. Elects not to purchase the property before the option period is in. I would say that's no breach. In the last week of the option period, Willa contacts the seller and says she's ready to purchase the property. The seller says they changed their mind and no longer wants to sell. I mean, I think that would be a breach. Desdemona, the optionor, the seller, is an option contract. Decides to cancel the option early without the consent of the buyer. That would be a breach. Raymond decides to exercise his option to purchase the property 2 days before the end of the option period. Someone has made several an offer on he can't refuse, so he sells his property, although it is under option to another buyer. And we got all those right, believe it or not. Okay, so while you are taking a screenshot of some of these questions, if you would like to, I'm going to go over here and read just a couple more things. A court order for specific performance, which means a court forces the seller to sell the land to the buyer. It could also be monetary damages if you breach a contract. You are not, what terminates by canceling the option early, that's a breach. By selling the property to somebody else, that's a breach. Where'd my option go? Which of the following statements about the situation are true? Irma and her husband have a 6-month option to purchase a nice piece of property owned by Red. 2 months into the option, Red sells the property along with the option. Red is in breach of contract. Leela is now the optionor and is bound by the option. Red sells the property along with the option to Leela. Okay, so he's not in breach. There too. Okay, I guess he's in breach of contract. All right. Okay, so Leela is now the seller and not the buyer, and is bound by the option. All right, that doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. All right, breach of option contract remedies. Stanley is miffed, and rightly so. Without getting Stanley's consent, the seller has canceled the option before the period was up, and the seller's actions are clearly a breach of contract. But what recourse does Stan have? He can sue for monetary damages, specific performance. All right. Leases an option contract in Maryland Study Tools. All right. This is nothing stupid. Okay. All right, we're going to do the unit exam at 6 questions, so hopefully we can get it right the first time. Perhaps. We've been doing pretty good on these questions so far. All right, Armand and Cecile recently purchased property from Egbert. Where do they come up with these names? Egbert. An option contract for the land was sold with the property. A few days after buying the land, Armand and Cecile received a call from Juliet, the optionee on the option contract. Juliet wants to exercise her option and purchase the property. What statement is true? All right, I'm guessing. Grant owns a property that is subject to an option contract. Grant is the, oh God, optionor. Look at this, optee, opter. Oh my goodness. All right, which one of these required elements of a valid option contract? Required elements of a valid contract. And we can only pick one. I'm thinking that one. I don't know if you can have a range of sale prices on a contract. That doesn't sound right. All right, Ezra lease on the condo includes an option to purchase. He told his landlord, Sherm, that he's ready to purchase the condo, and they've negotiated a purchase price and closing date. What kind of contract is this? This is a guess, by the way. If it's unilateral, it's only one person, so Chevy is an optionee, which is a buyer. What's his sole responsibility? I want to say monthly payments, but it could also be the option fee. We'll take option fee on this one. It says it's sole responsibility. So this one's kind of tricky. Make monthly payments. I'm going to say monthly payments, but it could be pay the option fee too. All right, Hank leases 150 acres from Sarah and Jesse. He has an option contract attached to the lease with an option to purchase that can be exercised within 2 years. What type of lease is this? I want to say unilateral. Okay, we got one wrong, and I'm betting I know which one it is. Yep. Pay the option fee. Remember, I was going back and forth with that. I was like, what is this sole responsibility? Well, they got to pay the monthly bills. All right, if you want any screenshots here, we got a few minutes, so I will go slow. Purchase property from Egbert. I kind of like it. Egbert. Anybody named Egbert? I think that's pretty cool. I never heard that name before. Sounds like something from the country. Sherm and Ezra. All right. The tricky one right here, boy. Pretty much got me. So we're doing seller representative agreements on the next unit. So if you need assistance in that kind of area, stay tuned. Come back for the next video. I thank everybody for watching. There will be 5 lessons in this next one. It's probably going to be 2 videos.